Welcome to Nacho Average Cinema. I'm Pepper,
And I'm Zach.
and today we will be reviewing The Gorge, which is a new film that is on Apple Plus or Apple TV streaming service, which we actually got just to watch and review this movie because this was in your, Zachary's, top 10 anticipated movies of the year.
Yes, it was. And at that time, I did not realize it was going to be exclusively on a streaming service, I guess. I had just assumed this was going to be a theatrical release. But yeah, I did not realize that. And I also didn't know it was being released on like Valentine's Day or the day before, uh, because there was maybe a little bit more romance in it than
Yeah.
I had originally assumed, just based on the premise. I think that's kind of why I put it on my list was the premise of guarding this. I guess I didn't go into it for like a movie about a relationship necessarily. Not saying didn't want that, but um, yeah,
Yeah, so as you can see, a bunch of genres here. I got a little less excited when I found out it was an Apple movie, so I was a little nervous because I just don't know about straight to streaming service movies. Definitely don't know about Apple. This is the first one that I've watched. But yeah, if we give our number rating here at the Nacho Average Cinema, we give our ratings first and then review the good, the mixed, and the bad. To start this off, I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. I think it was a really fun time. I wasn't disappointed in the least. That's a pretty good rating. Like 10 is like an all-time one of my favorite movies. A 9 is just maybe just doesn't connect with me as good, but it's pretty much as good as a 10. And 8 is just a really fun movie. And 7's good. So this is even above good. I had a lot of fun with it.
yeah, I would agree. I probably coming in at eight for this one because I could see myself rewatching it. So
Yeah.
I think if it's a movie that I want to go back and rewatch, it definitely deserves to be at an eight or higher for me. Uh, I guess some movies I might not want to watch again, but I respect it and could still have it high. But this one is one I would want to watch again. But I would say this one actually would have been higher up to a certain point. This was probably right around a 9 to 9.5 for me. I was really, really liking this a lot. And then we'll get into maybe some of the stuff, but about halfway to two-thirds of the way through, something happens, and then it just slowed down. Was It dropped it a little bit for
It
me.
dropped it a little.
So
Yeah.
dropped it a little bit, but it's still good.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, but let's go with the positives first here, the good of the movie. I think the two characters, the two leads here, Miles Teller, Anya Taylor-Joy, I think they had really good chemistry here, especially the premise being two snipers on opposite sides of the gorge, not supposed to communicate, kind of from different countries. But of course, as you can see in the poster, they're two Hollywood stars, and they're going to end up maybe growing a romance between the two of them. And I just thought there was a lot of fun kind of in the first half as they were getting to know each other and kind of finding ways to communicate. And it felt really real. Like you're just putting yourself in that situation. You're like, oh, I'd do this if I wanted to convey this message. And they felt like actual realistic people.
Mhm. I would agree. I thought that's probably one of the strongest parts and why it started off so well for me is it was really great relationship between those main two characters. There are very minimal side characters in this one, just due to something you learn right away. They have no communication. They're here for a year. Um, no communication with each other, outside world, really. And yeah, I think they did a great job of showing ways to communicate with one another, and you can see a blossoming relationship between them uh, happening. So yeah,
Yes.
that was really good.
Yeah. And yeah, you're invested in them. You know a little bit about their past, but not too much that it drags the
Mhm.
rest down. And the monster stuff, when we do get into kind of monster action, I think the monster designs are really good and pretty horrifying at times. Some of the things that you get to see, and the action's a lot of fun. It goes much more like crazy wild action than I was thinking. Kind of as the movie was going, it felt, like I said, very grounded, realistic. but it does get pretty crazy. So if you're worried that this is just going to be a slow, very small, not a lot of flashy things, you're in for some really fun stuff in the as it kind of gets to that third act. I guess what do you think of the monsters here in the monster action?
Yeah, I liked him quite a bit, and I think kind of the initial reveal was good. And yeah, I thought they were a unique enough monster that I guess kind of makes sense as you go and learn a little bit more about what's going on. And then yeah, I think there's one scene when we kind of first meet those monsters, an action scene that I thought was probably my favorite action scene of the whole thing. But then yeah, towards the end there's a lot more as well. That's still all pretty good. But I think that one scene is definitely my favorite. It's a standout one to me,
Yeah.
which I think relied partially, if you thinking about it, on that setting being an interesting setting of these two on opposite ends and kind of looking down into this gorge. I think it was kind of set up well by that and just made for a very interesting scene.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Then on to the mixed aspects of the film and the genre blending. As you could see back in the start, we got action, adventure, horror, romance, sci-fi, a lot of stuff going on here. And while I like all of those individually, as it does ramp up, it feels like it's a bit unnatural, just how it takes a turn into the blockbuster kind of superhero finale, big action. Characters become invincible and just fight these things in these situations. It just did not feel like the same kind of movie as the first half was setting up, a lot slower pace and character driven, which I like them both, but it just felt a little off.
Yeah, that's why I probably liked that first action scene the most because it still felt like it fit at
Yeah.
that point. But then, yeah, some of the action towards the end was a little bit different feeling than the kind of the rest. And then, yeah, it kind of took us a couple steps out of realistic feeling in some ways. So they blended it together decently well. That's why I think it's mixed. But yeah, that definitely like I said, partway through the movie, it kind of does some things that I think brought it down like a point or two for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Then we have time passage. It just really doesn't hurt the movie at all, but like it takes place kind of over months and like but at the beginning of a new like sequence, it'll say like November or something like that. It feels like the movie kind of takes place over a week. To me personally, I did not feel the passage of time. It's not really important to the film, other than just a couple little bits and maybe some facial hair grows a little bit. But other than that, I did not feel any time passage. So it doesn't hurt the movie in any way. That's just my thought.
yeah, I feel like that one didn't really bother me one way or another, but I could see how definitely some pieces of it don't feel like, yeah, if they say December and the next scene says January or whatever, doesn't necessarily seem like a month has passed.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
then on to the bad aspects. I think the logic is in every movie going to be sacrificed for entertainment purposes. All they're doing here is like, keeping these defenses up, guarding the gorge, making sure nothing gets out. So it just feels a little unbelievable when sometimes they're caught off guard by something, and it just feels like it's a little cheaper than the movie that was pretty smart and pretty natural leading up
yeah,
to this. It just felt like they made a couple sacrifices for excitement's sake, and I just had to accept that, which it doesn't really hurt the movie too much overall. But then as it gets crazier and crazier, crazier things happen. Characters become invincible at moments, like I said, and it's like, okay, how I don't buy that this person, they're good, they're a good fighter, but I don't know if they'd really be able to do this and know everything and just figure everything out, get all the pieces and get all the answers and just that kind of stuff that's in seemingly every movie. And you just have a little chuckle at it every time, like, okay, this is ridiculous.
mhm.
This one does have some of that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely has some of that where you have to. kind of look past it,
Yeah.
but then you have questions in the long term of things, I think, of before this happened and
Yeah.
possibly after, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then yeah, I would say one of the biggest reveal parts of it just felt very like, oh, they're using this movie trope again, and just
Mhm.
one that I'm kind of tired of, sick of. I don't fully get it, I guess, but it's.
Yeah.
I actually thought they were going in a different direction, and I don't know that that necessarily would have made it like, oh, it's way better because of what I thought it was going to be. I don't think it would
Mhm.
have like changed it that much, but it would have at least made it slightly different than the typical thing.
Yeah, yeah, there's something in here. There's a few reveals, and I think I like most of them. Just I think that same one that you're talking about, it's just not interesting. It
Mhm.
just doesn't make sense. Not that anything really makes sense, but um, that thing, and like you just know it from the start. Just there's this kind of subplot, and you know where it's going. It's been
Right.
done in so many movies, and you know how it ends, and I just feel like that brings the movie down because it did feel like a unique movie, kind of as it was going along with actual good characters. And
Mhm.
it just felt like they sacrificed some things and just went with the obvious options some of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's even with those things, I
Yeah,
still really enjoyed this, and I kind of wish it had been in theaters. I think this one would have
yeah,
been fun to watch in theaters. So it's kind of a little bit of a shame that it wasn't a
yeah,
theatrical release, because I think it would have been a pretty good one to see in theaters.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
would
I
def
definitely would have gone and seen it.
Yeah, for sure. And I would definitely recommend checking this out, especially if you do have Apple
Yeah,
TV or Apple Plus or whatever it is. I think this one's worth watching, worth your
yes,
time.
the best movie on Apple TV.
The one movie we watched is the best one we've watched, for sure. 100% that's the best one we watched, so it has to be the best. Even though I feel like the popcorn meter is a little lower than I would have
Yeah, I
expected.
mean, there's not really anything offensively bad about it. It's the only thing is that it gets crazy and wacky and that's unrealistic, but that's still really fun. So
Right.
it's shocking that one, it's so close to the tomato meter and that it is low. Bump it
Yeah,
up. Maybe it's different. This was the other day that I got these ratings, so maybe it's adjusted because it was brand new.
that's true. Because yeah, I think it's better than that compared to some of the other popcorn meters
I mean, you did give it an
movies.
8 out of 10, so like that is only 4% off.
That's true. That is fair. That is fair. So, yeah, maybe it is about right.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think that's everything about this movie. I definitely recommend going and checking it out. But otherwise, we hope to see you on the next one. And as always, don't forget to keep on nibbling on that popcorn, even if it's at home.
Right, I forget.